5% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
A very good evening. It's the 10th of December 2022. Welcome to the prime time news here on TV1 for the News First team, where the people come first. I'm Semita Senanaik. Before we take a look at the stories that we've got for you this evening in detail, let's take a look at the headlines. Today marks Human Rights Day. Many groups demand human rights be protected. President joins Back to University program at Colombo University. Basil holds SLPP leaders meeting to discuss elections. Thousands of cattle in north and east dead. Samples sent to labs for testing. Orders issued to halt transportation of cattle. Accelerate and finalize the debt treatments for countries such as Sri Lanka, says the IMF. Today marks the World Human Rights Day. Human Rights Day is observed every year on the 10th of December, the day the United Nations General Assembly in 1948 adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Human rights can be classified as civil, political, cultural and economic. Next year marks the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Citizens and governments have a responsibility to uphold the human rights of everyone. Every man and woman is born with fundamental human rights. They are not handed out by governments. Several events to celebrate the International Human Rights Day were organized by civil organizations, trade unions and mass organizations on Saturday.
A special conference was held in line with the Human Rights Day in Colombo on Saturday. The conference was organized by the trade union and mass organization collective.
As citizens, we must understand that human rights ensure our right to live. We must ensure our right to live in this country. We have a responsibility to stand against those who make statements against human rights protectors. We must stand for their rights. There will be challenges in the future. Sometimes the executive tries to suppress human rights by various means. We saw the Prevention of Terrorism Act being misused in the recent past. Emergency laws were abused. There is a history of enforced disappearances in the country. We must work for those who disappeared. We, the voters, are waiting for a savior. When elections come, voters look at a particular candidate as their savior. Then we vote for that individual. After 2 years, that person fails. But I feel as a nation, we do not have to wait for a savior. Strengthen the courts, Human Rights Commission, Elections Commission, state institutions and the police, and this country can be saved. The foundation of many governments is fear. But the Wickramasinghe and Rajapaksa gang have gone beyond that. This government is rushing to formulate financial provisions to spend on the police and the armed forces because they are scared. That fear is a victory for the Aragalaya. This Wickramasinghe play speaks lies and corrupts religious texts. We know that the fictional character, the Joker, is a psychotic character. Ranil Wickramasinghe is similar to that. He is more dangerous than the Rajapaksa clan. Do not forget the lessons learned in 2015. Our temporary enemy cannot be our friend. Where are the people who supported the Aragalaya by hooting horns and chanting slogans? Aren't they saying that Ranil Wickramasinghe is the one with brains?
The movement to protect democratic rights expressed the following views.
We identify our country as a democratic one, but if we consider how democracy is being implemented, especially in terms of freedom of speech, there are numerous restrictions in our country. We wanted to hold this event at BMICH. The payment was made to hold it inside a small hall there, but day before yesterday they informed us that they cannot allow us to host the event there. They said we cannot hold the meeting because event theme included the word Aragalaya.
The Capital Maharaja Group organized a special event to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The event took place at Stein Studios in Ratmalana on Saturday.
The event saw the participation of the resident coordinator in Sri Lanka for the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Senior Human Rights Advisor Juan Fernandez Chardon, Director of Programs of Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union Yasu Nagata, Chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group Shashi Raja Mahendran, diplomats, foreign dignitaries, legal luminaries, senior members of the banking and corporate sector of Sri Lanka, and senior directors of the Capital Maharaja Group. Speaking at the event, the chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, Shashi Raja Mahendran, spoke about the significance of the event.
The step we are taking today is remarkable in the corporate history of Sri Lanka. It is a very conscious step though. It is a step in the right direction as Sri Lanka is due to mark the 75th anniversary of independence next year.
The chairman also laid out the roadmap for the group in terms of strengthening the human rights of all Sri Lankans.
The next year is going to be another important milestone in the annals of human rights. It marks the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which culminates on the 10th of December 2023. Similarly, the next year is especially important for the Capital Maharaja Group because it marks 25 years of launching Sirsa TV. To mark this confluence of anniversaries, we are introducing a year-long program throughout next year, aimed to feature different human rights and their relationships with peace, democracy and development. It will reflect the theme of the 75th UDHR as decided by the UN General Assembly, that is, to educate, empower and transform. Let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that this theme, educate, empower and transform, is going to be our motto that underlies and inspires our relevant programming from today until the end of 2023.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, addressed the gathering via a video message.
At a time when the world emerged from cataclysmic events, the Declaration sets out universal rights and recognized the equal worth of every person. The Declaration, which was drafted by representatives from all over the world, embodies a common language of our shared humanity, a unifying force at the heart of which lies human dignity and the duty of care we owe each other as human beings. In the past 74 years, the importance of universal, indivisible, and inalienable rights has only become clearer. Yet, there is a growing disconnect between the standards on the one hand and the realities on the ground on the other.
The message of the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka, Justice Rohini Marasinghe, was read out by chef de ceremony Sonali Vanigabaduge.
With regard to today's program organized by the CMG Group and the private sector participation here today, I must say that this is undoubtedly a very ambitious project by Sri Lankan private sector. It is also ambitious given the energy, effort and time it is going to take to conceptualize and put into practice the essence and ethos of what the UDHR stands for.
CEO and Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Group, Sunil Kanoja, also spoke at the event.
Today's celebration is a means of expressing our shared joy of being united by human rights. It's also a manifestation of our deeper commitment to building that unity further. Creating an awareness of human rights, educating and imparting values, fostering diversity and inclusion, sensitizing and promoting rights, rights of the child, women's rights, rights of persons with disability, and rights of vulnerable groups are bound to engender a culture of human rights that underpins a vision of unity for all.
Several cultural performances, including a special performance of the World Heritage cultural items, puppetry of Ammalangoda, was performed at the event. The finals of the Human Rights Day debates between Royal Institute Colombo and the Medical Faculty of the Peradeniya University was held under the topic, "Education is the best approach to ensure that human rights are protected." The final debate was judged by the Commissioner of the Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka, President's Counsel Udita Igalaheva, Attorney-at-Law Deshan Hevavitana and Country Representative of the Asian Media Information and Communication Centre, Senior Journalist and Director Asoka Dias. The team from the Medical Faculty of the Peradeniya University was adjudged the winners of the debate. University of Colombo was adjudged winners of the Sinhala debating competition, while the team from the Open University of Sri Lanka was selected runners-up. The winners of the Tamil debating competition was the team from CFPS Law School, and the runners-up were the University of Colombo. Group Director of the MTV Channel Private Limited Media Network, Shevan Daniel, delivered the final remarks.
The great Genevan philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, in his seminal piece, The Social Contract, arrests our attention by beginning when he says, "Man is free and yet everywhere is in chains. Man is free and yet everywhere is in chains." But perhaps his second line is even more interesting. What he says is, "Those who believe they are masters of others are truly enslaved." Why? Because they can never defeat the relentless progress of man's quest for absolute freedom. They can never defeat that humanness, that spirit of humanity that all of us have and cherish and protect and defend. And ultimately they will lose. Those who believe they are our masters will ultimately lose.
The theme for the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is Dignity, Freedom and Justice for All.
This year marks the 74th anniversary of the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the 72nd Human Rights Day. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres issued a message to mark Human Rights Day.
New human rights challenges are emerging from the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss and pollution. And we are only beginning to grasp the threat posed to human rights by some new technologies. These trying times call for a reignition of our commitment to all human rights, civil, cultural, economic, political and social. I urge member states, civil society, the private sector and others to put human rights at the heart of efforts to reverse today's damaging trends.
The White House issued a message to mark Human Rights Day and Human Rights Week. The statement reads, "The United States stands fully with these brave women and men fighting for their basic human rights in the face of oppression and injustice, and we always will. That is why we moved to rejoin the United Nations Human Rights Council in 2021 and reassert our moral leadership on the global stage." Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, also shed light on why protecting human rights is essential for protecting public health.
Human Rights Day is a reminder that equal access to health services without discrimination is a fundamental human right. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted that protecting human rights is essential for protecting public health. Viruses don't discriminate, but people do. Discrimination due to race, gender, nationality, economic status, disability, or sexual orientation all lead to poorer health outcomes that can persist from one generation.
The BBC has revealed its list of 100 inspiring and influential women from around the world for 2022. Sandhya Eknaligoda has been recognized as one of the influential women by BBC.
A human rights activist and a campaigner, Sandhya Eknaligoda is helping thousands of mothers and wives who lost loved ones during Sri Lanka's civil war. She is often called upon to address international human rights forums and has faced severe persecution by pro-government forces attempting to stifle her activism on behalf of thousands of victims of enforced disappearances across Sri Lanka.
This has been a long and difficult journey. I have had to face a lot of criticism. However, being recognized in this manner gives me strength and confidence to go forward. My primary goal is to win justice for my husband. Pragit Eknaligoda was abducted under the Rajapaksa regime with their consent. Nothing has been done yet. I'm asking for justice. Not just for me, there are others who have lost their loved ones. They too must get justice. That is what I want.
Previous winners from Sri Lanka have included the first Sri Lankan to summit Mount Everest, Jayanti Kurutumpala in 2017, and maritime biologist Dr. Asha DeVos in 2018.
A Back to the Faculty program was held on Saturday at the Law Faculty of the University of Colombo.
Many graduates from the University of Colombo Law Faculty were present at the Back to the Faculty program. The Faculty of Law was initially established as a department of law located within the Faculty of Arts of the then University of Ceylon in July 1947. In 1967, it was upgraded as a fully fledged faculty and to date is the only law faculty in the university system in Sri Lanka. The Faculty of Law of the University of Colombo has produced many legal professionals in the country. President Ranil Wickramasinghe, an alumnus, also visited the law faculty premises this afternoon.
The Gunmeta team visited the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital on Saturday to start work on a project to renovate the hospital's dental unit.
The roof and the doctor's lounge area in the dental unit of the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital have been in a bad state of repair for an extended period of time. The walls are also discolored. The poor state of the hospital was a serious burden on both the patients as well as the staff. Renovation work on the dental unit got underway on Saturday following a request made by the Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery Unit of the Faculty of Dental Sciences. The project by Gunmeta aims to refurbish the Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery Unit of the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital as well as provide it with surgical equipment.
I believe this support will last for the next 24 to 25 years. The number of Sri Lankans benefiting from this is immeasurable. This renovation work is very costly. It cannot be done by the university, the Ministry of Higher Education or the government. I extend my deepest gratitude for the support extended by Next Manufacturing via Gunmeta.
ඉතාමත් සාදරයෙන් ගෞරවයෙන් ප්‍රණාම පූර්වකව ඔබට ස්තුතිය පුද කරනවා මේ ව්‍යාපෘතියට ඉදිරිපත් වීම සම්බන්ධයෙන්.
The project is being carried out with the support of Next Manufacturing Private Limited.
News First with the people.
By passing the Inland Revenue Bill on Friday, Parliament granted approval to impose a tax of 6 to 36% on monthly incomes exceeding 100,000 rupees starting from January. 79 votes were cast in favour of the bill and 36 votes were cast against. Of the 224 MPs, apart from the Speaker, it appears that only 115 members of Parliament were present in Parliament at the time of the vote. Several comments were made today regarding the participation and carrying out of duties by MPs in Parliament. It won with 79 votes cast in favour and 36 votes were cast against. The opposition must fulfill its duties better. There is no difference between the government and the opposition. MPs get elected by the people's vote. They don't relate to the people. At a time the country has fallen and everyone's protesting, if MPs are avoiding the vote, the opposition has failed to fulfill its duties. If the opposition MPs were present, the bill would not have been passed. There is a massive protest in the country regarding the Inland Revenue Bill. Is the opposition fulfilling its duties? The people have to carry out the duties of the opposition. These people were able to chase President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and Ranil Wickremesinghe is making fun of them. Yesterday, through the vote, it was clear that the opposition MPs did not have a plan or needed to defeat the bill. Apart from MPs switching parties within the parliament system, no bill that is beneficial to the people or protects human rights was passed in parliament over the past few days. The government and the opposition MPs are on the same side. That is why we need the people's support to defeat them.
Representatives of political parties that support the Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna gathered at the party headquarters in Nelu Mawatha today. The manner in which the party will face future elections was discussed during the meeting. SLPP national organizer Basil Rajapaksa was present at the meeting. Party representatives, including Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, joined the discussion.
It is the Election Commission that has the power to hold elections. We are ready to face any election declared by the Commission.
ඉතිහාසයේ පසුගිය කාල පරිච්ඡේදයන් පහු කරගෙනනේ ඉතිහාසය පුරා ඉස්සරහට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. පොදුජාත බැලුමට යන්න ලැබෙන්නේ මේ පාර. ඉතින් ඒක ඔබතුමා එදාට ගණන් කරනකොට එතන හිටියොත් පෙනේ ඇස් දෙකට. ආණ්ඩුව ශක්තිමත් මේ වෙලාවේ. ඉතාලම ශක්තිමත් පසුගිය දැන් දවස් දෙකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා තාවැල් එකන ජයග්‍රහණය කරයි.
බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහතා ඉතා සක්‍රීය දායකත්වයක් අපේ පක්ෂයේ දේශපාලන කටයුතු සඳහා ලබා දෙනවා. මේ අවස්ථාවේ එතුමා ඉන්න තීරණය තමයි රජයට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් දේශපාලනයට ඍජුව සම්බන්ධ වෙලා පක්ෂය වෙනුවෙන් එතුමාගේ උපරිම දායකත්වය ලබා දෙනවා.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ മന്ത്രിවරු පිරිසක් යෝජනා කළා තියෙනවා ජනාධිපතිවරයාට 2023 ජනාධිපතිවරණයක් අරගෙන එන්න කියලා.
ඕනෑම මැතිවරණයක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි එකඟයි. අපි ශක්තිමත් මුහුණ දෙනවා.
ජය ගන්න පුළුවන් වේද?
ජය ගන්නවා. අනිවාර්යෙන් ජය ගන්න. මීළඟ ආණ්ඩුවත්
we will definitely win. The next government will have an SLPP majority, and a majority of local government institutions will also be won by the SLPP.
ඉදිරියේදී පැවැත්වෙන ඕනෑම මැතිවරණයක් හෝ ඡන්ද විමසීමක් අපිට ඉතා ඉහළින් ජයග්‍රහණය කළා පොහොට්ටුවේ බලය යලි ස්ථාපිත කරන්න පුළුවන්.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඉදිරියට රට පාලනය කරන්නේ රාජපක්ෂවරුද?
මේ රටේ ජනතාවට රාජපක්ෂවරු අවශ්‍ය නම් රාජපක්ෂවරු ඉදිරියටත් දිගටම රට පාලනය කරයි.
අපි තීරණය කරන්න ඕනේ අපේ රටේ අරගල වලින් ආණ්ඩු තවදුරටත් මාරු කරනවද?
We must decide if we will contribute to change governments through struggles or elections. In 1988 and 1989, attempts were made to change the government through violence, but it was not successful. In the past, some UNP leaders tried to protect their government through oppression. That also failed. Governments must change democratically through an election. When we face the election, any person can cast their vote at the polling station for the political party or person of their preference to rule the country.
ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම මේ වෙනකොට තහවුරු කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි ආර්ථික වශයෙන් රට ගොඩනගා ගන්නත් අවශ්‍ය මාවතකට අද රට යොමු වෙලා තියෙනවා.
News First, main sponsor.
25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD, a trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, 25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva says there is a need to accelerate and finalize the debt treatments for countries such as Sri Lanka. She says this would allow for disbursements from the IMF and multilateral development banks.
IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva issued a statement on Friday at the conclusion of the 7th 1+6 roundtable convened by the Chinese authorities. According to the statement, the focus of this year's roundtable was strengthening multilateral cooperation for global common development. Kristalina Georgieva said a very fruitful exchange both on the G20 common framework and on some specific cases were held. The statement added a quote, "We need to build on the momentum of the agreement on Chad's debt treatment and accelerate and finalize the debt treatments for Zambia and Sri Lanka, which would allow for the disbursement from the IMF and multilateral development banks. We are also seeing new cases that are coming in this time of tightened global financial conditions. We talked about how we can prevent individual cases of debt distress from triggering a global debt crisis. The application of the G20 framework must become much faster and more predictable, and it needs to reach a broader set of countries. We also see space for a platform for more systematic engagement on debt issues where China can play an active role."
During the course of past few days, over 1,000 dead livestock have been reported from the northern and eastern provinces. The Minister of Agriculture states that a decision has been reached to conduct lab tests on the dead cattle, buffaloes as well as goats in the north and eastern provinces.
Newsfirst reported on Friday about the discovery of dead cattle and goats in several areas across 5 districts of the northern and eastern province. The Minister of Agriculture says that 358 cattle have died in the northern province. 352 are in critical condition. Meanwhile, 191 goats have died, while 53 are in critical condition. 478 cows and buffaloes were reported dead in the eastern province. 352 are in critical condition. 65 dead goats have also been reported. 2 months ago, Newsfirst reported on cattle deaths from various places in the eastern province, including Trincomalee, Batticaloa. Newsfirst teams visited these areas to investigate the matter and bring it to the attention of the authorities. Authorities in the area said that they would investigate the mysterious deaths. During just the past few hours, dead cows were reported from several areas in the eastern province. The Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation say it is believed that these animals may have died due to the unusual cold weather patterns being experienced especially along the eastern and northern coasts. However, in order to determine the cause of death, samples have been handed over to laboratories by the veterinary department. The Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, Gunadasa Samarasinghe, has instructed all relevant departments to prevent the transportation, sale and consumption of the meat of these animals. Similarly, the President's Media Division said in a statement, due to the death of animals in the northern and eastern provinces, the President has ordered the suspension of the transportation of beef and mutton at the district and provincial levels with immediate effect to ensure public health safety.
We brought you a special report on Friday on the drug issue affecting the youth and students in the northern province. Today, we bring to your attention how these dangerous drugs are smuggled into the country. This report was filed by Newsfirst's Disal Kapuge.
Drugs are smuggled into the northern province, mostly using the sea of Sri Lanka. The fishermen of the north claim that these drugs are smuggled from India. Drugs including heroin, ice and marijuana are brought into the country through sea.
Some people do this as a daily job. Drugs are smuggled from India and distributed. Even our professions as fishermen are threatened due to this. Because of the trafficking, we are thoroughly searched every day when we go out to sea. We are made very uncomfortable because of this. When you look from Mana, you can see the towers of Rameshwaram. Where else do drugs come in from other than from India?
Our mission to expose the drug trade continues. Smugglers deploy new technologies to smuggle drugs into the island. They encase the drugs in protective packets before putting them in the sea.
The smugglers use GPS technology to dispatch the drugs. They encase the drugs and put a chip in the packet before dropping them in the sea. Then their accomplices go out to sea and fish them out. The smuggling is done from the Indian trawlers. This causes great damage to our country. They deploy new technology to deliver these drugs. When they drop the payload in the sea, the others know exactly where it is through GPS technology.
Sri Lanka is a fortunate country, blessed with the very resourceful Sea of Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, today the Sea of Sri Lanka is being used by drug smugglers to bring in poisonous drugs into our country, in turn ruining our future. For the Newsfirst team, I am Disal Kapuge reporting with Mahinda Gamage from the Northern Sea of Sri Lanka.
In our quest, we came across some young people who were addicted to drugs. Tomorrow, we will bring you their story.
Ivan satutin inne wiring karala wiring kirwe Eslon polycon yodala.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking and AC wiring, Eslon polycon cable trunking.
The economic crisis has left millions of Sri Lankans helpless and destitute. However, Gunmeta went from village to village today, striving to support the masses to overcome their woes this Christmas.
The campaign launched by Gunmeta to distribute dry rations among the people who are in dire need to help them overcome the soaring cost of living continued today as well. Dry rations were distributed to low-income families in Hambantota, Badagiriya fishing village today.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Primetime News here on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I've been Senita Sena Nayaka. Take care and stay safe.